Hi everyone, it's Suey here. Today I want to tell you about two books I just finished reading called The Glucose Revolution by Jessie, I think her name is Jessie, and I can't say her last name, and The Diabetes Code by Jason Fung. These are two books that I've read this past couple of weeks because of my recent diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. And I'm not going to talk anymore about necessarily that part of it. You can watch my other video where I go into quite a bit of detail about that whole experience. I just thought I would do a quick review on these two books, even though it kind of moves into another subject as I talk about this, not just reading, but since it's the books I'm reading, here's a review. And at the same time, because they kind of play off of each other. And going on this journey, I wanted to learn, of course, I wanted to learn more and more about what's happening. And these two books seem to pop up as some of the most recommended books for this kind of thing. So the Diabetes Code is a much more scientific book where he goes into quite a bit of detail about what is happening inside of our bodies with insulin and glucose and the difference between type 1 and type 2, and even there's type 3 now, which is basically Alzheimer's. At the very beginning, he says, bottom line, this is what I'm telling you to do in this book. If you want the details, keep reading. Much of the book is the details of the scientific stuff that's going on. Kind of goes over my head a little bit. I mean, I understand the basics of it, and he gives a lot of analogies like a sugar bowl overflowing with sugar and a flood in your house. What would you do to stop the flood of water? Would you add more water, or would you turn off the water? Things like this, so it makes this easier for our brains to understand. Towards the end of it, he starts going into all the different medications that people take and how, with all these different studies and watching everyone take these medicines, it treats the symptoms, but it doesn't treat the disease. The book is basically not necessarily anti-medication, but more like, you know what, if you really want to deal with this, you should turn off the water. Or, in other words, stop eating sugar. He says it's a dietary disease and not a disease that you just solve with medication. And the way you solve it is through diet. That's his bottom line message in that book. So some people who rely on medication or feel strongly about medication might want to fight against it a little bit. In my mind right now, I want to do everything I can do to make this stop without having to take the medicine. So I was kind of like excited about reading it and learning more about what's happening inside and how I can make it better. So although I do feel still frustrated that this whole thing seems to blame the person. Like, I ate this certain way all my life and now I'm paying for it. Which is pretty much what it is, right? And it makes me frustrated that it's sort of a shame pointing finger at the person sort of disease. Do you know what I mean? But he also talks about how this whole thing started happening because we were taught back in the 70s and 80s and 90s about the food pyramid and how everything we should be eating should be mostly grains, and we should stay away from fats. And when in reality, from what they've learned now, it's completely flipped. And we should eat more fats and protein and less of the grains. So mostly he's blaming the way we've been taught. So now I'm currently trying to reprogram my thinking. I'm eating some berries with some whipped cream, and it feels so decadent. And I'm like, whipped cream or, heavy cream, it's good for you. It's okay. Butter, it's okay. And eating a lot of eggs, it's okay. Like, we've been so trained that all this stuff is so terrible for you, and it's, going to raise your cholesterol, and you are going to get fat from eating fat. So the bottom line that I'm learning from these books is you get fat from eating sugar, and sugar is all the breads, no matter brown or not brown, all the rice, no matter brown or white, all the pastas, potatoes and starchy vegetables, all the treats that are yummy, ice cream and cookies, my favorites, a cake and pies, all the stuff that's yummy, candy, Of course, we know that's all sugar. But and then fruit. Fruit is also sugar. The thing about fruit is that it has some fiber. So it's a little bit better for you than the other sorts of sugars. But in trying to limit your intake of sugar in order to get rid of the overproduction of insulin in your body, then you have to limit the fruit also. The glucose revolution is also goes into a bit of simple detail, if that makes sense, about what's happening inside our bodies. But her main point in her book is to how we can flatten our glucose spike. So, and she wore a monitor thing and learned all the different foods that raise her blood sugar level. And she's learned all these different ways that you can flatten the spike. So bottom line, when we eat stuff, our glucose spikes. Some things will make it spike really high, and some things will make it spike barely. So the point of her book is to learn some tricks, or hacks, as she calls them, on how to make that spike a lot less. And I always thought, when I started learning about spikes, I was like, why do we care? So what if we spike? What does that mean? So in learning about spikes, you find out that a glucose spike is kind of what causes everything that's terrible and wrong in our bodies. It causes our aches and pains, it causes our insomnia, and it causes headaches and feeling crappy during the day and being tired in the afternoon, and all the things we always complain about. We can point back basically to glucose spikes. So that's why we want to flatten them. And also it makes it so that our body doesn't respond and try to shove us full of insulin, which is what causes the diabetes. And so flattening your glucose spike will help in the long run. Right now, my concern more is to get that number down. And then I feel like the hacks and the tricks and the tips that she gives is something that you can learn how to do to maintain once I can eat a little more, quote unquote, normally again. Like if I do decide, okay, I really think I'm okay to have some ice cream. Well, you can do all these tricks to make sure that ice cream doesn't spike you as much as it normally would. Just to throw out some of the things are like eating your food in the correct order, which means you should eat your fiber first, which means vegetables first, which is why we often have salads at a restaurant before everything else. I didn't know that having a salad before your meal was like helping your body. So like, wow, that was like, oh, cool. I get it now. So eating vegetables first, and then you eat your protein or your meat, and then you eat your carbs or your rice or your potatoes or your desserts at the end. And that helps your body process it, and your spike won't be so high. I guess drinking a little bit of vinegar and some water before you eat helps your body process that sugar differently, and your spike won't be so high. If you go move your body or walk after you eat, that makes your spike not so high. If you eat a savory breakfast instead of a sweet breakfast, that will make your whole day better. Oh, that reminds me, the Jason Fung is also very big on intermittent fasting. So his whole book is to point out that limiting your sugar or your carbs and then combining that with intermittent fasting is what will reverse type 2 diabetes. So that's what makes me think of breakfast, because breakfast can just be the first meal of your day. So for like right now, I'm not really eating breakfast anymore, that's another thing that we were ingrained with when we were growing up by the Kellogg's company. They started the whole idea that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So I'm trying to reprogram my thinking to realize you don't have to have breakfast and you're going to do fine. You're going to be fine. Just eat like noon. And that's going to be breakfast. You can still have breakfast at noon, and it should be savory like eggs and not like cereal or pancakes. Anyway, she's got a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm hopefully going to try to ingrain those into my head and try some of them out. I mean, the whole like vinegar thing, is it for real or is it just a wives' tale? You know what I'm saying? We'll see. Maybe we'll try. I haven't tried that one yet. It sounds disgusting. And there's a whole bunch more. My mind's going blank right now. But that's what I learned from these two books. And I feel like I'm going into this battle and this journey with a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more things, strategies that that will help me deal with what I'm doing here. Just got to say, so I'm feeling much better this week than I was last week when I did that video. Feeling much better mentally. And it's probably because I'm seeing some results finally after about a month and a half of doing this now again. I pricked my finger yesterday and the blood sugar level was way down from what it was a couple weeks before when I tested my blood. So I feel like finally I'm seeing some results. That's what I was saying in my other video, is that if I could just see a little bit of progress. It's so motivating to see that it's actually working. And I've lost maybe just a little over 10 pounds now. The scale is so back and forth that I never can pin it down to an actual number, but it's about 10 now. And so, and starting to be a little bit more than that, I think. We're even maybe going close to 12, 13. So anyway, it's making me feel better about the whole thing, seeing that it's actually working, and that maybe when I do go back to the doctor to get tested again for them, maybe it will have changed. I'm probably going to rate those books pretty high on Goodreads just because I kind of gobbled them up, and I'm taking it to heart and going to try and do all the things. And I think they were really, really, really good for me. That's all to say that I want to be done with that subject now. I need to move on. I need to just internalize those new ideas and then stop thinking about it and try to start reading some other things now. I'm going to talk about that in another video. So look for that. It's, I need to start reading some, like, quote unquote, normal books again. Have a great day. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.